Today's video is going to be looking and exploring the timeline of thriller films. I have compiled a range of films fitting into the thriller genre. When looking back at the history of thriller films, we can see some changes within the conventions included in the thriller genre. We start way back at the beginning of the thriller genre with the 1923 film Safety Last. The film is about a country boy named Harold. He says goodbye to his mother and girlfriend, who is called Mildred, at the train station, and leaves expecting to be successful in the big city. Harold promises his girlfriend that he will marry her as soon as he makes enough money to buy a ring. Harold shares a room with his friend and he finally gets a job as a salesman at the DeVore department store. During the film, he steals his friend's phonograph, which records and reproduces sounds. It's a lot like a record player. He uses money from pawning his friend's phonograph to buy a laviera, which is a type of piece of jewellery. It's a lot like a pendant. He also, at this point, tells Mildred, his girlfriend, that he is the manager of DeVore department store. As the film is quite old, precisely 92 years old, the conventions of thriller film has changed so much up to 2015 due to the fact that the genre itself has expanded a lot like other genres, and it was hard to sort of classify this original film as a thriller due to the conventions not really being explored. The next film we are going to look at is the popular film Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. The 1960s film is very unique and very popular because the intense music used, particularly in the shower scene, which is a very famous scene, helps connote the suspense and horror within the film. Also, the shower scene contains 77 different camera shots and a total of 50 cuts between each shot. This aspect helps show all different sides of the murder scene, allowing you to see who is murdering the woman and different sides that you wouldn't be able to see. Although at the same time we can see that the murderer is not actually stabbing the woman in the shower. Obviously, CGI and makeup at the time was limited due to technology and funding. More common thriller films have the CGI because of the big budget conglomerate companies funding them, and they can expand on CGI and makeup in terms of costume. Moving on 30 years, we arrive at the film Goodfellas, which is directed by Martin Scorsese, personally one of my favourite directors. The film is set around a young boy growing up and eventually joining the mafia. It also explores the wives of the mobsters, showing the fact that they are not allowed to voice their opinion due to the hierarchy between males. In a way, the mobster wives are a product of the mafia. Personally, one of my favourite shots in the film is a continuous tracking shot. Now, this particular shot follows Karen and Henry on their first date. They arrive at a very posh restaurant, entering the back door, going through the kitchen. Now, this shot is very hard to recreate. Obviously, there would have been multiple takes to get it perfect. Moving through the kitchen with a Steadicam is very hard. If you don't know what a Steadicam is, it's usually a weighted gyroscope type tripod that allows to counterbalance different weights, so it reduces foot movements so it won't jog the camera. They get their own table at the front of the stage, which obviously shows that the people of the restaurant have a lot of respect for the mafia and want to keep them very close for protection.
How you doing?
Henry, nice to see you.
Yeah, good seeing you.
Hi, how are you? Anthony, right in the front.
Great, thanks.
Anything you need, Henry, just let me know.
Hey, how come we can't get...
I know you're waiting.
The next film is personally my favourite crime thriller. One, because of the actors, and two, because of the actual plot of the film. And judging by my audience research, it seems that other people's favourite crime thriller happens to be Seven as well. So it allows me to take into account some of the aspects which are in the film and maybe include them in my crime thriller. So the film Seven explores the 7 deadly sins, which consist of greed, sloth, wrath and envy, pride, lust and finally gluttony. Now, these sins are expressed in 7 different murders which sort of, it shows you the sin in the terms of a murder. So in terms of lust, the particular scene was quite a controversial scene, including a very, well, yeah, it's not a very nice scene. The film is very dark, and it shows you a lot into the psychopathic murderer. Eventually we begin to see breadcrumb-like clues left by the murderer. Maybe he wants to be found. Maybe he gets his thrill out of sort of letting them chase him around like cops and robbers. Now, the murderer in this film is very popular, Kevin Spacey, and personally I don't think anyone could have played the creepy part as good as him. And also the detectives, the young rookie detective being Brad Pitt, and the older, more experienced detective being Morgan Freeman. Detective Mills, played by Brad Pitt, finds out that there was one sin that they had not yet discovered. Now, thinking they had found the murderer at only 6 sins, they didn't expect to see one more murder. Now, personally, I managed to guess the ending of this due to looking at previous scenes in the film. Like, you notice he has an argument with his wife or girlfriend. I sort of pictured the ending of the film. Unfortunately, his wife was involved in the last murder. The particular film features a lot of close-ups, which fits very well into the fact that this film is quite emotional. It allows the audience to see what type of emotion is on the particular actors' faces, and the fact that the majority of the scenes are quite low lit in terms of there's quite low lighting within the scenes, and this fits into the crime thriller conventions. Now, the next film is the popular horror thriller I Am Legend, starring Will Smith. Now, this film explores the day-to-day survival of Will Smith and his dog, which happens to be his companion. We see the zombie-like mutant creatures hiding in the dark. We find out that sunlight sort of affects them in a way. So they tend to stay in darker areas during the day and come out in night, as we find out during the film. Hence the reason why the house that Will Smith is staying in has metal shutters inside and out, and the aspect that is quite creepy is the abandoned loneliness of the city, only being inhabited obviously by, as we know in that city, Will Smith and the mutant characters. The abandoned New York buildings really help set the scene and make it quite creepy in a way, which fits into the usual conventions. The protagonist, which is Robert Neville, played by Will Smith, seems to be conducting scientific research in the basement of his house. Possibly he's doing this in order to find a cure, which we later find out happens to be his own blood. So it looks that uninfected blood, in fact, is the cure by injecting it into the mutants. So it sort of is a type of medicine. Now, this movie has 2 alternative endings. The ending I've seen ends on Will Smith running at the zombies behind reinforced glass and the grenade exploding, and the woman and child escaping with the cure. They end up going to a stronghold where there are others there and giving the cure to the scientists there so they can develop it further. And they said that it's owed to Robert Neville, that he sort of is saving the country, or world in fact, again. Now, one of my personal favourite films, because it includes Ryan Gosling, is Drive. Now, the 2011 film explores a mysterious, sort of very self-reserved character who has multiple jobs as a Hollywood stuntman, and he also works in a mechanical garage where he works on cars. Now, he also does a lot of criminal type jobs by driving criminals away to and fro from the crime scene as a getaway driver. The film has been nominated because of the music and has been remastered by Radio 1. So this is a factor to take into account, so music is going to be very key for my film. Now, the reason I'm going to be trying to make or find the music similar to this film is because it's very intense, thus creating a factor of suspense during the film. Also, the protagonist, Ryan Gosling, is known for being very silent during some of his films, which it saves in terms of dialogue, and also it makes him very mysterious. So the film includes a variety of different camera shots, including close-ups, high-angle, low-angle shots, and tracking shots to help capture what is happening during the different scenes.
Did you have any idea there'd be a second car?
He said there would be another car to hold us up.
Whose money do I have?
I'm gonna tell you something. Anybody finds out, we're both dead.
That's why this driver's gotta go, Bernie. He's gotta go.
Moving on 1 year, including the same actor Ryan Gosling, with also bigger names like Bradley Cooper and Eva Mendes. It is the 2012 film A Place Beyond the Pines. This film explores a mysterious and shady motorcycle racer at the local circus who happens to be called Luke, played by Ryan Gosling. He ends up leaving the carnival riding out on his motorcycle. During the carnival he rides the Globe of Death, which, if you don't know, it's where one or multiple motorcycles ride around in this metal cage going up, sort of swerving around, which itself is a very dangerous job. He's desperately trying to get back with his former lover called Romina, as played by his actual wife Eva Mendes, who has secretly recently given birth to his child. In an attempt to provide for his new family, he meets up with a very shady individual running a mechanical garage in the woods. Leaving his carnival life, he commits a series of bank robberies. Now, the fact that he's able to escape is aided by his already great motorcycle riding skills and his fearless attitude towards life. Now, something that makes Ryan Gosling's character Luke very unique is the fact that he has lots of tattoos on his face, on his arms. Now, in terms of makeup, this would be maybe a very good factor to include into my film. The stakes rise as Luke is put on a collision course with an ambitious police officer, who in the film is called Avery Cross, played by Bradley Cooper. Now, he is quickly moved up in ranks as a police officer in the corrupted police department that he works in. The sweeping drama unfolds over 15 years, showing the upbringing of both their children. Now, eventually Avery Cross does kill Luke by shooting him, thus him falling out the window. Now, there is an investigation going on that Bradley Cooper, Avery Cross, shoots Luke before he shoots him. Now, if you don't know, you're only allowed to, in terms of self-defense, shoot if shot at, and Avery actually shoots Luke before Luke gets a shot off. Now, due to the corrupted department, Avery Cross is seen as a hero and no further action is taken upon him. Now, because Luke is obviously dead, there is no one else to help apart from Romina's current boyfriend to help bring up Luke's child. The two boys go to the same school and end up wrestling with their father's inherited legacy. Now, also, it is quite ironic that the policeman's child is on a course to destruction, drinking and smoking, taking drugs and misbehaving. You'd expect him to be Luke's son, because you would expect the policeman would have disciplined and he would have had a better upbringing. Whereas Luke's son is actually very clever and tries to stay out of trouble. Now, the film ends with Luke's son riding off into the sunset, a lot like his father on a motorbike. The next film is the more recent 2014 thriller, American Sniper. The film is based on a true story, which is instantly already interesting, and it is based around the United States SEALs, which, if you don't know what that means, it's sea, air and land. It explores the life of Chris Kyle and his family. We see the violence and the heartbreak of war and how it affects men and women of the United States and everywhere. As I said, what makes this film unique is the fact that it is a true story. Now, Chris Kyle joined the United States SEALs in order to become a sniper. After marrying, he and other members are called on their first tour of duty, which happens to be in Iraq. Kyle doesn't struggle with his missions, but he struggles more with the relationships and turning off the side and switching off from being a United States SEAL. He's later diagnosed with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, which is an anxiety disorder caused by very stressful or frightening actions or events. Now, what is interesting is that the film follows Chris Kyle and his family throughout his life, eventually ending on Chris Kyle being shot and killed at a firing range by a fellow United States soldier. Now, you'd think that the situation Chris Kyle is put into during his tour of duty would have killed him, but no, it happens to be in the comfort of his own country.
What are you doing?
I guess I just needed a minute.
The thing that haunts me are all the guys that I couldn't save.
Hey! Tend to my daughter, please, right now!
I'm ready.
Oh my God!
I'm ready to come home.
Now, one of the most recent thriller films is the film Nightcrawler, and this is the last film on this timeline. The crime thriller Nightcrawler follows the life of Lou Bloom, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who is desperate for work. He discovers the non-stop, high-speed world of Los Angeles crime journalism. He eventually finds a group of freelance cameramen who film crashes, fires and murders, usually before police or other emergency services